So when you say, do you believe in God, which God? Is it Zeus? Is it Poseidon? Is it the Jewish God? Is it the Christian God? He took the New Testament, physically cut out with scissors, every reference to a miracle, anything mythical, magical.
In 2014, you did an interview, and they asked you, what do you think about God? And you said, I remain unconvinced by any claims anyone has ever made about the existence or the power of a divine force operating in the universe. Right?
Yeah, I would have said something like that for sure.
Right. And, since
then... By the way, just to be clear, what's probably missing from your extracted quote is the setup for that, which would be, is there a particular God you have in mind that you want me to comment on?
Huh. Okay. I missed that.
Because if you go online and in a Google search, you type God's worshipped by humans. There's a tally of all the gods ever worshipped by humans in the history of civilization. And it just goes screen after screen after screen after screen. So when you say, do you believe in God, which God? Is it Zeus? Is it Poseidon? Is it the Jewish God? Is it the Christian God? Because the Jewish God from the Old Testament is filled with wrath, okay? All right, and smoting and smiting and whatever the past tense verb is. And so, and the New Testament, God is kinder, all right?
A little nicer, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So you look at all of this and say, is that the God you want me to comment on? Or is there some other God? Typically, it's the Judeo-Christian blend there. In that context, I would say in my studies of the universe, I value evidence, and I don't see evidence for any kind of active intelligence or power over anything.
Yeah.
But if you had evidence, show it to me. I'm all in.
Well, I mean, you said you don't like to be labeled an atheist, more agnostic.
Yeah.
And the definition of agnostic is a person who believes that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of God.
Yeah, I'm not
or anything.
Agnostic comes closer to what I am than atheist does.
Yeah.
But all of that rest of that baggage that agnostic carries is off the edges for me.
Okay.
So the reason why I disavow the atheist title is very simple. The most visible atheists today say things, do things, and think things that I don't do.
Such as?
They're quick to use CE and BCE when referencing dates on the calendar.
Okay.
CE, Common Era, BCE, before Christ. They have eschewed the BC and AD. That makes a religious reference. I totally celebrate AD and BC because the calendar that we currently use, the Gregorian calendar, what came out under Pope Gregory, who figured out that the leap day system of ancient Rome doesn't work. You have to adjust that. And so they adjusted it and corrected the calendar. A whole lot of astronomical analysis.
Right, because there's no zeros in the Roman calendar. In the Roman numeral system.
Zero was not invented yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's not the only reason. Yes, because Roman numerals, you cannot represent zero with Roman numerals. Exactly. Interestingly, I don't know if you've ever thought of that.
Yeah.
There's no zero there. Mm-hmm. So it's not just that zero got invented afterwards. It's that the relationship between the day of the year and where Earth is in its orbit was more precisely defined, or rather where the sun is in its orbit around Earth. We were still largely, among many, we were geocentric at the time. But it doesn't matter if you're accounting for time frames. Point is, if they put in the hard work, I'm going to respect that. And I'm not going to sweep that under the rug. My favorite musical on Broadway, which I saw in real time because that's how old I am, was Jesus Christ Superstar. Mm-hmm. I love it. I listen to that every Easter and then some. Okay, I love culture as a binding force of civilization. They're atheist Jews, ardent atheist Jews who still celebrate a Passover Seder.
I'm an atheist Jew.
Atheist Jew.
Right.
And you still leave the empty seat for Elijah and unlock the door. By the way, if someone did walk through the door, you'd probably shoot him, okay? That seems to be what you can do these days. But you you're not literally thinking that's going to happen. So there's a cultural exercise that you go through. So there's that. Also, I don't chase people down when they speak of their religious allegiances. I might ask them about it, but I'm not going to challenge them. I value the diversity of people's spiritual expression in this country where it is protected, and in the world, not every place where it continues to be protected or where it was ever protected. So I once said in my Facebook post, I had a friend going up on the shuttle to fix the Hubble telescope, one of the servicing missions. And I said, my friend is going up, fix the Hubble, great. Godspeed, STS, I forgot the number. STS is how they numbered the shuttle missions, but I forgot the specific number. I said, Godspeed. What did someone say right after that? Godspeed, I thought you were an atheist. Here's my point. If my behavior triggers people to say, I thought you were an atheist, then I'm not an atheist. Because words in the dictionary, words are not defined by the dictionary. They're described in a manner that reflects how words come into use. Otherwise, we'd still be speaking like Chaucer. Yeah. So atheist today comes with expectations of what you're going to say and do. And since I don't fulfill that, we need another word for me. I don't know. And agnostic was like, maybe that.
Yeah. And yeah, I think I'm probably more agnostic as well. Listen, I have Christian people in my family, and I totally respect their point of view. You know, I'll say words like God willing, and people are like, I thought you didn't believe in God.
Well, that's my point.
It's a whole kind of clusterfuck of ideas. You know.
Oh, by the way, as a scientist, if you are religious and you say something that is patently, objectively false, I will tell you. I'm not going to respect your views if they're objectively false. As I owe that to your intellect to explain to you what is objectively true in the face of what you think is true, want to be true, or wish for what is true. So when you say the Christian, I respect it, I don't respect, that's not the operative word for me. I respect your freedom to think whatever you want. But if you're going to make a decision based on something that's objectively false, that emanates from your belief system, no matter what it is, I'm obligated, as an educator, I say, that's not going to work. Or here's why it's not going to work. Well, you're advising someone else who doesn't know better. And that's not in their best interest. Yeah, I'm going to say that.
If you look at history, belief in God depends entirely on where and when you're born. Ancient Greece had Zeus. Scandinavia had Odin. India has thousands of deities. Today, Christianity dominates in some regions, Islam in others. That pattern shows belief is cultural, not evidence-based. Science works differently. Claims need proof. The universe operates on consistent laws: gravity, thermodynamics, and cosmic expansion. The Big Bang model is supported by measurable data like cosmic microwave background radiation. Evolution is backed by genetics and fossils. None of these require a divine explanation. Even within the Bible, there are contradictions in how God behaves. In Numbers 31, entire groups are ordered to be destroyed. In Matthew 5:44, people are told to love their enemies. That inconsistency raises questions about whether these are human interpretations over time.
Does God exist?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, you mean does that God exist? Because,
yeah, I guess so.
Because if you
does
just
any
type God into, look at the wiki page on God, and there's thousands of gods listed there.
Does any God exist?
I based on what people say about what that God is supposed to do and its influence in the world, based on that, I remain unconvinced that anybody is in charge of anything in this world.
You're agnostic.
Yes.
You refuse to believe or disbelieve. You
It's
don't
not
have evidence.
Refuse is too harsh.
Yep.
I would welcome better evidence than what has been presented in defense of the existence of somebody who's in charge.
We had two guys on our podcast named Cliff and Stuart Connectly. They are devout Christians who spread the word, the gospel, and they were very convinced by the eyewitness testimony of Jesus, and that was I think I don't want to like misquote them, but that they cited that as some of the strongest evidence they had to prove the existence of Jesus at one point in the Bible. And you're saying that
You're saying God,
eyewitness,
not Jesus.
Yeah,
So-
well, Jesus is God to some people. Jesus
No, but the existence of God and the existence of
Let's
Jesus
stick with God
are
first.
separable
Yeah.
variables.
Okay,
here.
so maybe that's do you think Jesus existed?
Because Thomas Jefferson, okay, one of our founding fathers,
Yep.
published a book called The Morals of Jesus of Nazareth, okay? And you know what's in that book? He took the New Testament, physically cut out with scissors, every reference to a miracle, anything mythical, magical, conversations with God, and he left in the wisdom of Jesus. And so to Jefferson, Jesus was a wise person who had a lot of good things to say, but the religious dimensions of him was denied in that compilation of his book. That's why I didn't call him Jesus Christ, which means Jesus the Anointed One, Jesus of Nazareth. So one can embrace the existence of Jesus. By the way, there's some people who doubt it, but I don't have the energy to go that way. I don't have if he's fine, he exists fine. He's a person, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is his existence or not is a very different issue from whether you want to say somebody created the universe and is in charge of things.
Can biblical explanations of the universe and scientific explanations of the universe both be true?
The history of that exercise really has not boded well for the Bible.
Okay.
It's if you go to the Bible and deduce something about how the universe must be based on the Bible, and then make a prediction about the world, not a post-diction, a prediction, because that's how science works at its best. Anytime anyone has done that, it has shown to be false. So the record is not there. Enlightened religious people today don't use the Bible as a science textbook. They use it as a source of inspiration and a source of moral compass, even though there's a lot of sort of stuff in there you wouldn't do today. Because sensibility, like if your kids disrespect you, you will not stone them. Okay, that's in the Bible. The things you just, did
that really?
read the Bible. Why are you asking me about God? You haven't read the Bible.
It's not my name on the show, man. Listen,
now it's
That was good.
going back quickly to
and Joan of Arc.
Yes,
okay?
of course. Yeah.
Burned at the stake.
Yep.
All right,
Tough.
They try to that. Okay,
but things were very different in those times. I want to ask you this quickly.
I got to say this quickly.
Yep.
Do you know if you read the transcripts because the Catholic Church keeps very good records, if you read the transcripts, do you know like a third of why they built the case against her? It was for cross-dressing.
What?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So why? Because in the Bible, in Leviticus, there's the line: if a man dons the clothes of a woman, or a woman don the clothes of a man, it is an abomination unto the Lord thy God.
Wow.
And they said, let's use that because she's not dressing in a skirt. She's not leading soldiers into battle side saddle. Okay, and so she's like the first. There she is. And so
Dude, I've been
it's
dressing.
the Bible. You what?
I've been dressing up like a woman. I've been dressing up like a woman since I was like 10.
It's an abomination to the. So what I'm saying is,
Neil, let's keep the
have to cherry
cross-dressers
pick.
out of this for
You
a
have to
second, all right?
cherry pick the Bible to say that it is your moral compass.
Who pushed the button for the Big Bang? Commonly held belief in science community,
We
the
don't
Big
know.
Bang.
It's a frontier of science.
Science depends on prediction and testing. Religious claims don't pass that standard. When the Bible was used to explain the universe, those explanations failed. The universe is about 13.8 billion years old, confirmed by cosmic background radiation and galaxy expansion, not a recent creation. Eyewitness testimony is not strong evidence. Memory changes, stories evolve, and the Gospels were written decades later without independent verification of miracles. There is no measurable proof those events happened. Moral claims also shift. Laws like Deuteronomy 21:18-21 command actions that modern society rejects. If morality came from a perfect, unchanging source, it would not change over time. The Big Bang explains how the universe expanded. It does not point to a God. It marks where current knowledge stops. Lack of an answer is not evidence of a supernatural cause.
So normally I don't go here. Normally, I don't go here, because I just like talking about astrophysics. But given this conference and given how many of you out there are rabid atheists, I got to give you a bone here. I got to toss you a bone, okay? So I'm going to toss you a few bones, okay? Just because you're rabid, all right? So let's look at some data here. You probably know all these data. Actually, the data I'm about to show is for the United States. I don't know what it is. I'm sure the data exists, but when I compiled it, I'm going to make yet a separate point. So it wouldn't have mattered what country was represented here. In America, 90% of the nation would claim to be religious. And you define this in a way that's unambiguous. You don't say, well, do you go to church every Sunday? You don't ask that question. Plenty of people go to church who are not religious. They go to get a date or so. They go for the cupcakes or something. They don't go to be spiritually enlightened. So you ask a different question. You say, is there a God that listens to your prayers? If you answer yes to that, you're religious by anybody's definition, because your understanding of a deity is that that deity is monitoring your daily affairs. So that's unambiguous. This number's dropped in the last couple of years, but it's about 90%. Turns out if you go to college and get an advanced degree, a master's or a doctorate, where these are degrees where you actually question the state of existing knowledge. The undergraduate degree doesn't really do that. You're learning from textbooks that are written by somebody else. Your doctrines are already there. The higher degrees imply that you are questioning the very fabric of the knowledge you had previously learned. Among that community, it's 60%. It has dropped. Well, that's interesting. Let's keep going. How about scientists? Of all stripes. So biologists, chemists, let's include engineers as well, people who have formal scientific training, mathematicians as well. Okay, what happens next? Drops to 40%. Now, if you look at this number, it looks like, wow, so scientists, the public is 90%, scientists are 40%. No, the drop is not that significant, because every scientist has an advanced degree. So in fact, the drop is not from 90 to 40, the drop is from 60 to 40. So becoming a scientist is not as big an effect on whether you're religious as you might otherwise think. Most of the drop comes because you're educated beyond the level of college. So that's 40%. So now you go to elite scientists, members of the National Academy, highly accomplished subset among scientists, the number drops to 7%. There was a headline in Nature, the British journal Nature, which said, after this study was released, 93% of elite scientists reject God. So that was supposed to be a shocking headline. And I look at that and I said, that's not even interesting. That was the trend line anyway. What's more interesting, which was not the headline, is that 7% of elite scientists pray to a God. Isn't that a more interesting fact to you? Isn't that kind of interesting? The most accomplished scientists in the world, in that community, 7% of them still pray to a personal God. I think that is deserving of more study than the 93% who don't. Because something's going on there. We don't know what. And I have confronted people on this. I would say, to the most sort of vociferous in the atheist community, I would say, you're beating the public over the head, telling them, why are you doing it? And I'm thinking, before you beat the public, why don't you beat them over the head, okay? No, I'm just saying, if you're gonna rank, understand that first, because if you can't convert that 7%, you've got no hope in the general public. That's all I'm saying. This is among the ranks of the scientifically educated. Now, philosophers basically invented atheism. And if you check the statistic for philosophers, it's below 1%. There are no the only religious philosophers there are, they're like theologian philosophers, all right? If you subtract the philosophers, this number is essentially zero. All right, so they're basically birthed atheism, the philosophers. And there's this talk, I don't know here in Australia, does the Bible in the public school class or not? No, is it by law or is it just by tradition? Is it by law? Okay, so in America there's this understanding that the state and the church are separate. And by and large, that's been honored for most of the history of the country, by and large. And what's interesting about America, a point that was a little bit alluded to earlier today, is that it was founded on the principle that the state has no religion. The state is indifferent to what religion you might have. So that means there's no authority over you that's going to tell you who and what to worship. And that's a state that we all take for granted, but so many places in the world that is not true. Well, there's a case in New Jersey where a middle school kid was lectured to by the history teacher in a public school, and the history teacher said, if you don't accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you are going to hell. And there's a little Muslim girl there, said you are already damned to hell. First point. Second, that Noah had dinosaurs on his ark. Third point he made is that Big Bang and evolution are just theories and you can take them or leave them. So, I don't, like I said, I don't get into these. I just don't. We got people who do this. We've got the four horsemen. We got our boy here who's coming up after. We got people who fight this stuff. I'm not one of those, really. I'm doing this because, like, I know you all, this is the bone I'm throwing you, but I don't do this. So, but then I thought about it and I said, I have an op-ed, a letter to the editor on this that I can write. And I left out the part about Jesus. I left that out. Because if that's how he feels, he wants you to be Christian, that's okay, fine. I left that out. I went to the rest of what he said. And this was my letter, as it appeared in the New York Times. People cited violation of the First Amendment when a New Jersey, that's a separation of church and state, essentially. New Jersey school teacher asserted that evolution and the Big Bang are not scientific and that Noah's Ark carried dinosaurs. The case is not about the need to separate church and state. It's about the need to separate ignorant, scientifically illiterate people from the ranks of teachers. That's the problem. If he wants to believe Jesus is his savior, that's not synonymous with being scientifically illiterate, because 40% of American scientists pray to a personal God. What is identical with being scientifically literate is that if Noah was a human being, he did not have dinosaurs on his ark, because humans and dinosaurs did not coexist. All right? Every one of those scientists knows that, even the 40% who pray to God.
Belief also drops as knowledge increases. In the general population, about 90% say they believe in a God. Among people with advanced degrees, it falls closer to 60%. Among scientists, around 40%. Among elite scientists, it drops to about 7%. Among philosophers, it's near zero. That pattern matters. The more someone is trained to question, test, and analyze ideas, the less likely they are to believe. This points to something important. Belief isn't getting stronger with deeper investigation. It weakens under scrutiny. There's also a track record problem. Predictions based on religious claims fail. Dates for the end of the world have been announced many times and never happened. When a claim can be tested and repeatedly fails, it loses credibility. Science corrects itself when it's wrong. Religious claims tend to adjust after the fact or reinterpret meaning. That difference is why one builds reliable knowledge and the other doesn't. So now the question is simple. If belief depends on where you're born, changes with education, and doesn't hold up under testing, what does that tell you? Do you think belief in God is based on truth or tradition? Comment your answer below. I want to hear your perspective. And if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like and subscribe for more.